This is the Flourishing Business Podcast. This podcast is for women who are flourishing in business or who want to be. Today, my guest is JoJo Tabares. JoJo holds a BA in speech communication and has over 30 years of experience in the field. She's an author of over 20 books on communication skills at theartofeloquence.com. She's taught communication skills both online and offline for over 18 years. Her homeschool materials have been endorsed by the Old Schoolhouse Magazine and are recommended by the HSLDA. Her articles have appeared in magazines like the Old Schoolhouse Magazine and Homeschool Enrichment magazine, and on sites such as drlaura.com, crosswalk.com, and 95.5 The Fish. Just recently, she felt the Lord leading her to help the Christian community with missions, ministries, and businesses to stand up and speak out in boldness and grace in a world that is now telling Christians to sit down and be quiet. Her new coaching program for Christian leadership is doing just that with the Christian Leadership Academy and the Christian Leadership Inner Circle on Facebook. Before we get started, I want to welcome you to the Flourishing Business Podcast. I am your host, Alison Liddic, owner of Alison Liddic Coaching, where I work with Christian women running their businesses and trying to do it all in life. I am a wife of 19 years, mom of 3 beautiful girls, and I have an unhealthy love of coffee and Ray Dunn. Seriously. But for real, my passion and purpose is helping Christian women flourish in business and life, and to learn how to have supernatural focus on God's plan for their business. It's an honor to get to coach women from all over. I am also the host of another podcast called The Shared Cup, where women share their stories of how they've experienced Jesus Christ work in their lives. Check it out anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Thank you again for being here with me today, JoJo.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is such a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to share all about your business and just encourage everyone listening. So why don't we start with that? Why don't you tell us about what you do?
Well, I have been a writer all my life, pretty much. I started writing when I was 9 and was not a Christian then. I'm from Jewish heritage and grew up in an atheist home. And I became a Christian after marrying a non-practicing Catholic and being visited by Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a whole story in its own. We'll have to do another podcast episode on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back and share about that. It's really, my husband and I then became very faith-filled Christians and reading the Bible and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of brought along. And as I got closer with the Lord, I felt a calling to use my writing for various things. And I have training in speech communication. I have a degree.
Okay.
And that's where I met my husband at college. And I began writing because the whole thing was just a God thing. I never set out to do any of this. And I think it's really funny that a woman of Jewish heritage raised by atheists writes communication skills and coaches communication skills for Christians.
Yes.
But I do. And I was homeschooling for probably the first couple years. I was homeschooled, not even, maybe the first year. And I met another mom whose daughter was just incredibly shy. And she said, well, you have a degree in speech communication, so why don't you teach a class that my daughter could come to? And I thought, oh, I can do that. And so I set out looking at materials. I looked at my books from when I was in college, and very dry. And I thought, this girl, and not fun, and just intimidating. And I thought, there's no way this girl would do that. And I thought, well, I'll write something, because I've been, I write with humor. And so I thought I can do something that would make her more comfortable. And so I wrote this study. And it's funny because she was too intimidated to even come to the class. She never did.
Oh.
But I had the book was out at the printer, and it hadn't even come back at the printer yet. I had people knocking at my door asking if I had it. because they wanted to buy it. They wanted to enroll their kids and
No
they wanted to
way.
use.
Oh my
I was just
gosh.
like,
That's
so
so cool.
from there, I wrote several other communication materials for mostly homeschoolers. But I now have them from preschool all the way up through adults.
Wow.
And things such as general communication, as well as speech and debate and sharing your faith and conflict resolution and shyness, everything
That's
in
so
between.
great.
So then about 2-3 months ago, I started noticing the rhetoric on not just social media, but mostly on social media. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is just, if you're a conservative and a conservative Christian, you almost, we're told to sit down and be quiet. And I noticed that a lot of my fellow Christians were trying, either they didn't want to speak up because they were afraid. They had fear of being judged or fear of being smacked down, or or they were speaking up, but they were doing it in a way that other people found offensive. And so they didn't get their point across effectively.
Right. Yeah.
And so I thought, I need to do something. I need to teach the Christian community to stand up and speak out for the things that God put in their hearts to do, to say. And so I started thinking about that. And then another little odd series of things happened. And I ended up realizing that I could coach. I had a former customer of mine that bought my Say What You Mean, Overcoming Shyness book. And her daughter, even though she had the information, she was still very shy. And she asked me, would I consider coaching? And I thought, well, I've been considering coaching.
Sure.
Yes, I will do that. So I started coaching her. And then a bunch of other things happened. And I am launching my new program for conservatives and Christians. If they're going to be leaders, they need to know how to stand up and speak out, especially in this kind of environment, whether on or off social media, on or offline. And so I decided I was going to launch the program to help people be bold and speak
that's
out in
great.
grace. And so I have a group online, Christian Leadership Academy, and the Christian Leadership Inner Circle, where I have my paying clients that have a mission, a ministry, or a business that want to learn how to stand up and speak out, but in boldness, but in grace as
Yes.
well.
Oh, that's so good.
Because there's so much they want to say. Some of them are just plain shy. Some of them are not shy at all, but they're intimidated to speak up about their business, or they're intimidated to speak up about their mission or their ministry because of all the anti-Christian, anti-conservative rhetoric out there, being judged, being cut off, not being able to be, or some of them just don't know how to say what they want to say. And so I coach them so that they can use different platforms or different ways of communicating, presentations like you're doing right now, podcasts and so forth, in order to get out their message. So my work that God gave to me is trying to help other Christians stand up and speak out for whatever the Lord put in their heart to share with the world, and just don't know how best to do that.
That's so great. Because like you said, they might speak up, but they don't know how to do it effectively. And then it falls on deaf ears, or has an absolutely opposite effect that you wanted.
Yeah. And unfortunately, even if they're not at all antagonistic, sometimes the way that they say it is taken as rude, even if I can tell they did not mean it that way.
Right.
But it's just, people are looking for offense these days. So it's
right. Yeah. So you have to be very careful. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. So your program, so people can, is it like open enrollment, or how do they get into your program?
Well, the best way is through, there's a few ways, but I give away a lot of free information on just general standing up and speaking out in general type of good communication skills and things like that on my group, Christian Leadership Academy. So if you go to Facebook, you would look up Christian Leadership Academy, Building the Art of Eloquence. Okay. And you can also go to artofeloquence.com, and there's a lot of free information there as well as all my books, but there's a link to, I have a newsletter, and there is a page about my program, the Inner Circle, Christian Leadership.
Perfect. So let's talk about your perfect client, because I know you've kind of described them a little bit, but let's get specific so someone knows if they're a good fit to work with you. Who is your perfect client?
It's really anybody that has a mission, like to speak out against abortion, or, something that God put on their heart to share, or someone who has an actual ministry that they're trying to promote, or a business that they're trying to promote, who feels they're not getting their message across.
Okay.
They're not necessarily shy, but they have a really hard time understanding how to get the message across to their ideal client or their audience, their ideal audience, in a way that gets across what they want to say. Because there's so many times where they're either speaking the wrong way to the right audience, or they're speaking to the wrong audience.
Right.
I go through being your authentic self, because being a leader, and that's really what it is. It's people that want to be a leader in their industry, but they're not quite sure how to put it into words. Because you can have the best marketing platform, you could have the best financial backing, you could have the best product or the best service, but if you can't tell it, you can't sell it. You need to know. You need to know how to put it in such a way that your ideal client or your ideal audience is going to resonate with your message and with you.
Right.
And I teach them, I go through a whole program. It's a 6-month program where I take them by the hand in a group setting, and I teach them everything they need to know to get that message across. And if they run into snags, they can always get on the group and go, hey, I have this problem, what do I do? And not only will I be able to help them, but the other business owners and ministry people in the group can give them help and ideas as well. And we network with each other as well. We have days where we encourage people to share each other's ministry or blog posts or product or service, because if you share your service online, that's an ad. I don't care if you're paying for it, it's an ad.
That's true.
If I share your product or service, it's an endorsement or a recommendation.
Yes, that's so true.
Much more powerful. So it's a community. And if somebody is interested in promoting their mission, their ministry, or their business, and they're not sure how to do it, and they want some help with not just how to do it, but actually doing it, then my coaching and my community is for them.
Perfect. I love all of that. And I agree with you on the group aspect. I feel that it's very important. I know not everyone is keen on a group program, but I feel it adds so much value to have that community for the networking, for the other perspectives, for the encouragement and everything. So I'm glad that that is a part of it, and that you have structured it that way. So if the person that JoJo was just describing, make sure that you reach out to her to get into her program, so that you can work with her and learn how to communicate effectively. And just like you said, know how to say what you do. That is such a huge sticking point for so many people. Just like they have the mission, they know what they want to do, but they're not communicating it in a way that it makes that, resonate with their ideal client. Like, yes, that's for me. So the fact that you work through that, that's a game changer for people.
Yeah. I mean, because having real-time feedback is so important. One thing I did want to say that, there are people that do not want to work in a group. So I will say I do have one-on-one coaching also. So that's on the Art of Eloquence site too. But if you want to be in the group situation, it's really powerful. But if you do want a one-on-one, then I can do that for you as well.
Okay, perfect. So artofeloquence.com, and then your group on Facebook. Say it one more time.
It's Christian Leadership Academy, and the paid group, the Inner Circle Christian Leadership Christian Leadership Inner Circle.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds very encouraging. And tell me something that people, especially Christian women, because it's the majority of our audience is Christian women running their businesses or looking to start their business. Something that they have a hard time with is how to incorporate God in their business. So what are ways that you make sure that God is a part of everything that you do, even in your business?
Well, for me, it's I do everything with God in mind. To me, it's not two separate things.
Yeah.
I'm either in or I'm out. There's no halfway for me. So for me, God is the leader of my life. God leads wherever I go, whatever I do. So it doesn't matter what I do. I'm always in prayer that I'm doing what he wants. And a lot of that is I get confirmation of because I pray, Lord, is this something you want me to do? Lord, is this something you want me to do now?
That's an important
Maybe
word.
it's something you want me to do down the line. And then I step out and I start doing it. If I have confirmation, like in this case, I had so many things that just all fell in my lap. I mean, I didn't even go looking for a lot of this stuff. It just came to me, teachings and people and clients, and it just fell in my lap. So when you start stepping out because you think that God is leading you some way, you will get confirmation. Stuff will just fit.
Right.
And that's how I did it. And that's how I do it. I pray all the time. Before I go online, I do Facebook Lives in both groups. To teach, because the first group, that's the free group, they get general communication skills and being confident, overcoming whatever kind of shyness, because there's lots and lots of types of shyness. So every time before I go live, I'm praying that I will help the people that I'm teaching. I will give them what they need. Yeah. And I give as much as I can. I give a lot away for free because I feel like it's both a ministry and a business, because there are my paid clients, but it is a ministry for me because there's so much need for Christians to learn to speak out and not be afraid to say what God put in their hearts. And a lot of times people will feel like, I should say something.
Yeah, you feel that in your heart. Yeah.
But you're scared because of the backlash, because you'll be called out, or because you're not sure you'll say it correctly, because you're not really sure that you can go through the whole process. Sometimes people are like, well, I can say one thing, but then it's going to lead to a conversation that I'm not sure I can have. So they don't say anything, even though they can say up front, they could say, this is not right. This is immoral. This is something that's, please don't do this or something like that. But they don't know how else to carry on the conversation. So they say nothing. So I feel like it is something I've studied. It is something I've written about for, I've been involved in speech communication for 30 plus years. And it's something I feel very passionately about. And that's why I give a lot away free, because it's my ministry as well as my business. I want the Christian community to be prepared, to be able to have confidence, to stand up and speak out when the world is telling us to sit down and hush up.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Good point. Now, if you don't mind, if you're able to, because I know we don't have a ton of time on this podcast, but I do have a couple clients that are really shy. What would be something that they could take away and learn right now that helps them? Like, what's a first step to overcoming shyness?
Really, the most important step is mindset. And mindset is really important because you're going to make mistakes. The only person to ever live who never made a mistake was Jesus. So if you think that because I've studied this, that I never make mistakes, you're absolutely wrong.
Right.
And so once in your heart, I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Once you understand that, then you can take a few steps. My biggest takeaway, if you're shy, because I was an incredibly shy person as a kid, and it took me years to get over it. And I did not have any help. It was me, myself, and I,
Mm.
and probably the Lord going, hello, I got work for you.
Right.
But it took me a really long time because I either didn't stretch myself enough to where I felt like I was getting somewhere, or I took these big giant leaps that scared me to death. And I said in my head, I went, I'm never doing that again.
Mm-mm.
And
Right.
that's where you are. Because if you don't take big enough steps, you're not going to get over shyness. And if you take steps that are too big for you at that time, you're gonna solidify the fear in your head, and you will be much less ready to go out and stretch yourself again. So that's my biggest tip, is to find a way that you can stretch yourself enough, but not jump off the cliff.
Right. That's good. And like you said, it all starts with the mindset of knowing we are going to make mistakes. I mean, I'm glad I don't count how many I make a day, honestly, because I'd probably be like, whoa, what are you doing? But just having that expectation. And I love what you said too about the steps, like knowing that what your limit is or what would be too much, but taking a big enough step. So very good. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Because like I said, I've got a couple clients that are not struggling with it, but they're working through it, being shy. So maybe they'd be good to send your way as well, to learn how to do that. But thank you for sharing that. Now, is there anything else you want to share with any woman listening that might need some hope or encouragement in their business right now?
I think the biggest thing is just to be willing to step out there and be the leader that God has prepared you to be. I mean,
Yeah.
God gives us missions. As women, we have a lot of different missions in our life. And a lot of times we're ready to accept the ones we have for our children, to help our husbands. But a lot of times there are a lot of women in the Bible who were
Yes.
leaders
Right.
in different things. And they're, to be a leader, we need to be willing to step out. We need to be coachable. Sometimes we need a coach.
Yeah. A lot
Right?
of times we need a coach.
Yeah, because we may know where we need to go, but we don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And it's like God will often put people in our path to help us. And sometimes we don't recognize that this
Yeah.
is, that's why that person is there. And so, also that it is really important not just to be the leader, but we need to act, look, speak, sound, perform, and share like a leader. And that is what takes sometimes a lot of coaching, because you don't know what you look like on the outside. So that's what I do, is, help people with that, because you need a confident mindset. You need to know who you are. God uniquely made you for a reason, and you need to understand your unique audience.
Yes.
You need to speak the language of leadership, because there are certain things we say as women, especially. There are words we use and terms we use that make us sound less like a leader. And then there are power words that we can use. We need to understand how to master certain forms of presentation, like what you're doing right now, interviewing and giving speeches, or sharing one-on-one, those kinds of things. You also need to perform like a leader, which generally means handling conflict and difficulty. Because again, just because you're in business and just because God's saying, yeah, you're doing what I'm telling you to do, doesn't mean you're not going to have issues.
Right. Right. So true.
One thing, I mean, for me, I'm a coach and I teach leadership and overcoming shyness. And I have essential tremor, and I talk with my hands a lot. So I don't know if you can see, but my hands
I did
will
not even
shake.
notice it. Yeah.
So God has a sense of humor. So there are some challenges that are going to come up for you in dealing with things, and how
Right.
you deal with conflict and how you deal with the challenges is important as a leader.
Good
And then I
point.
think the most important thing for women to remember is to share like a leader. And what I mean is sharing your faith. God puts us in ministry or in business or in if we have a mission, not just to get those things accomplished, but in doing those things, you will come across people you can witness to. And that to me is the most important thing. You may have people in your family, and as women, it's easier for us to get into those kinds of conversations sometimes than men. And so as we're going through our business, as we're going through our ministry or the missions that God has us on in our lives, we can share as we come across people who need Jesus.
Right. Thank you for sharing all of that. It was very wise and very insightful. I can see that it would be a joy to work with you. So thank you for going into all of that. And I know that encouraged a lot of people. So thank you so much. JoJo, can you tell us one more time how to get in touch with you?
You can go to artofeloquence.com. You can email me from there or look around. You can contact me at jojo@artofeloquence.com, or just come on into my group, Christian Leadership Academy, Building the Art of Eloquence. It's a free group with all kinds of free information, and you can contact me through there.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on today and sharing everything that you did. It was great having you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to give us 5 stars and leave a review to help more women find this podcast. If you are a Christian woman, business owner, entrepreneur, and would like some extra motivation and encouragement, head on over to Facebook and request access to my free Facebook group. It's called Flourishing Business Without Overwhelm. Just put that in the search. You should be able to find it. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.